So yeah, I'm Tim with bananaz, sales executive for bananaz. As you can see, bananaz is a co-pilot for physical product design. Everything we do is based off physical product design. Yep, I like this. So the reason this created, two co-founders. One was a research and development engineer. He had 30 or 40 engineers work for him. So we saw firsthand the trials and tribulations of all the engineering changes and the money lost and time wasted in just the engineering changes processes. So we use AI technology and algorithms to run our program, and we'll get into that here in a second. So as you know, some of the main problems, you can see drawing mistakes. Everybody had them, everybody's seen them. Hopefully the drawing mistakes haven't made it to production where things really go bad. So drawing mistakes, siloed communication. We know communication in this day and age is big and important. And manual processes, slow everything down. And we actually increased one of our customers' processes by 90%, 90%. They're thrilled, over the moon with us. So next one. So why go bananaz? We have automatic error detection. You like that? Yeah. I love the name. So that's one reason I started the company, bananaz. Yeah, I love the banana. So why go bananaz? Automatic error detection. Errors are created. We automatically catch those instantly, so nothing goes down the road. Instant change monitoring. We get push notifications, so we make a change. There's no holdups, and real-time collaboration. So people know what's going on. There's a holistic view. If Adam's the one slowing things up, everybody in the team knows it. So he's the one slowing things up. Goes on from there. Next one. And we try to monetize everything. So everything we do, that way your directors, your management, your owners actually see how much time our products are saving. Like I mentioned earlier, we save 90% on one customer. We also do 2D and 3D design comparisons and analysis. So some of our competitors don't do that, and also enhance collaboration. But major savings, like I mentioned, that customers save 90% during design time. They were thrilled. Enhance teamwork. We can see what's going on. Boost collaboration. So like I said, AI technology is what we're doing. Our main goal is to increase engineering time by 10 times through just AI technology and the algorithms. Work smarter, not fast. Work smarter, not harder is our main goal. So that's what we're trying to do. Next one. So we are SOC 2 certified. So I know cybersecurity is a big thing these days. So we're SOC 2. And people are probably wondering how hard is it to implement. It's simple. It's just 2 clicks, automation. There's no user integration. It's all done automatically. So within 30 seconds, it's up and running. Lives in your PDM system. There's nothing interferes with the CAD system at all. So it just sits right in the SOLIDWORKS program, and everything works seamlessly. And there's a video later we're having.
Intermission.
Yep, so intermission, there's a video of what actually the process is, what the platform looks like. Any questions, let me know.
Yeah, stick around for the intermission. I know some people have to split for the bathroom breaks and stuff, but our sponsors are going to get a huge shout out during intermission and everything they've done. You get to see some stuff from bananaz, from HP. Go Engineer will be represented on that, as well as Trimec and Hawk Ridge.
Yeah.
And 3D Connection.
Then we're happy to sponsor this. We think it's a good program, so we're happy to sponsor in this lovely building. Holy cow, this is great. So yes, thank you.
All right. Hello, everyone. So my name is Kalen Gifford. I am with Go Engineer. We are a SOLIDWORKS reseller, and we just opened up into Nevada in July of last year. There used to be a reseller agreement that kind of locked certain states down to certain resellers, and so now we're available. You guys have probably heard of us. We've got a pretty strong online presence, YouTube channel. We are the top reseller. We have been for the past 7 years in a row. And since we're kind of new to this state, there's a good chance that I've probably tried to slide into your LinkedIn DMs, if you guys have them, because we've been just trying to gain business in the area. So a few things that I wanted to mention, what kind of sets us apart is we are bigger, right? We've gone around, we've acquired a lot of other CAD resellers so that we could kind of expand. But fortunately, those application engineers, those resources that we've acquired, they've stuck with us, right? So we've got like over 200 members on our team just for the technical side alone, right? If you give us a call, we're going to answer within a couple of seconds. We're going to email you back within a few minutes. One of the things that kind of sets us apart is we have a customer portal where you can have access to all of your SOLIDWORKS assets, right? You can go in, assign them to other people. you also have access to our entire training course catalog. It's like $40,000 worth of training. If you were to go in and purchase like a SOLIDWORKS Essentials course, you're going to pay a la carte, right? You're going to pay about $2,000 for that. The advanced is about $1,500, and then there's the simulation courses and everything else. You guys have probably heard of the Elite plan, right? A lot of the other resellers have their value add, which is the Elite plan. Well, ours gives you access to our entire training course catalog. So that's kind of been a favorite. They're self-paced online. You have access to them within the portal. If that's something that you're interested in, they are specifically geared towards the SOLIDWORKS certifications. So I know a lot of these others, they offer, you know, like Solid Professor and things like that, but we've actually put these together, our teams have, to help enable you guys. So we have the resources. If you have any questions, I'm going to be hanging around after. Come up and talk to me. Can help you out. Can look at what you guys got and see what we can do to enable you forward.
Awesome.
Thanks.
All right, give us just one moment while we get the camera swiveled back around here. All right, guys. Well, welcome to the final day of IronSWUG. It's been a long week. I think I was joking with Brad as we were sitting down for a little catchphrase I think I might use for our recap video, and that's 55 to 105. And he said, "Are you talking about our speed?" And I was like, "Yeah, but not just that. The temperature was that way too." So we started in San Francisco at 55, and now we're here in Vegas at 105. So it's been a long journey with different weather, and of course, we won't talk about the 55 to 105 speed though.
Allegedly.
Allegedly, yeah, that never really happened. All right, so I want to do a little quick recap of what we've done this week and what's going to be done today, just to give you an idea of where we've been. So the cool thing about IronSWUG is a lot of times when people do tours, they're just regurgitating the same information every time they sit down or every time they do it, right? We do a brand new presentation every day. So you're getting something new. The people online are getting something new. People who follow us even next year, follow us if you can too. I think you might end up being during your lunchtime maybe next year or a little early, maybe breakfast. Depending on where we're at, of course. But yeah, so stay tuned. IronSWUG.com is going to get you there, so that way you guys can continue to follow us in years to come. We do it once a year, every year, and just as you can see, we stream live virtually as well as in person. But yeah, San Francisco, I did X Design on your phone. Brad did Holy Shift. That was a pretty cool presentation. D feature my design was in Dixon, California. I did a Did You Miss It? That was 30 years of SOLIDWORKS history, tips and tricks, what you may have missed. And also the legacy of SOLIDWORKS and where it came from and how it started with just the, if you guys know the movie 21, right? John Herstick actually was part of that MIT Blackjack group and took $1 million as winnings to create SOLIDWORKS, right? So that's pretty cool. Then we had the Fresno. I did mastering metadata, which had a lot to do with different metadata, property tab builder and different things like that. Brad, of course, if you want to elaborate on yours, feel free. And then Brad did tips and tricks from the road. The following day did another tips and tricks session. I did learning from mistakes, not my mistakes, because that would mean that I'm admitting to making them, right? So then Vegas, I'm going to do customizable control panels, and Brad's doing performance on your SOLIDWORKS and hot rodding your PC stuff. I also want to pull up our website just to give you guys an idea, like I was telling you, of what we've been around and been doing here. So this is our website. You can see our sponsors down here. We'll get into more of those too. Altec, SOLIDWORKS, you know, for having us out here and doing this stuff. HP is a huge sponsor, along with bananaz is a huge sponsor for us this year and next year. 3D Connection, Go Engineer, Hawk Ridge, Trimec. All these sponsors are not only great at sponsoring us, but great at supporting their users. So reach out to them if you need them. If you got a VAR, utilize them. They are there for that reason. But jumping back, this is our trip this year. This is where we started in San Francisco. We usually have been in the last few years been doing just kind of the East Coast because that's where we're out of. So we just take our bikes and ride there and back. Yeah, that is our route for this year. And if we go looking back, you can see all the locations we've already been and done. And it's going to continue to grow. We're hoping to paint this whole map red by the end of it. We'll see if that can happen. Also, the watch online, you can come in here when we're getting ready to start doing stuff and and put your information in here. We don't sell it or anything like that. We just use it to email you and let you know we're starting to present. So that's pretty much about it on that stuff. Am I missing anything on that, Brad? Nope, I think we're good. All right. So jumping back in.
He says, spread the red.
Spread the red. There you go. I like that. Spread the red. Man, we should put that on our page right there. And that's nice. I like that, Josh. Thank you. All right. So again, back to what I was going to be doing is going to be customizable control panels. I'm looking at talking about stuff that's outside the box, taking tools that maybe you wouldn't think could be used for SolidWorks, maybe even used for another industry, and just thinking outside the box and bringing them into your own portfolio and what you're doing. And so I think the tip of it is just to work smarter, not harder, with Stream Deck and Touch Portal. That's kind of the first couple of things I'm going to talk about. Anybody know what those two are? I'm kind of curious. Anybody online know what Stream Deck or Touch Portal is? No? Okay. So this is a little bit more of an extension of what I had put on a couple of years back. I did one that was are my peripherals for you, right? Basically my setup and how my stuff looks at home, and just elaborating on everything I use and just kind of different pointers and maybe how much they costed me and maybe things I'm looking at in the future. So this is a little bit more of a deeper dive in just one of those resources. And so just to start out with real quick, who am I? My name's Adam Ebernickel, project designer in a product engineering department for Altec Industries. So that that digger derrick up there is one of our products. We do a lot of things with a utility company, whether it's bucket trucks or tree care. MV Energies is out here, of course. So that's one of our big customers. If you see Altec on it, that's us. Now you're going to see it everywhere because I told you that. Most people don't know it until they hear it, and then they see it everywhere. I'm also an adjunct in the applied engineering department of Malin Community Colleges. I've been doing that for just as long as I've been at Altec, which is over 10 years. I teach about 3 classes a semester there, just anything from SolidWorks to GD&T. I mean, just name it, it's there. I lead the Western North Carolina Asheville user group. That's, again, one of those things I've started since I've been at Altec. And then in 2020 became a committee member, just like Jose Saldana is for the West Coast, and Brad will tell you about his spot. But I'm in the Southeast region, so Mississippi, Tennessee through the Caribbean. And then Altec found it so beneficial to have SolidWorks user groups, we decided to bring it in-house. So we've got 11 different user groups within Altec, and that's so I help kind of have stewardship over those and anything that they may need. As well as a SolidWorks champion. If you don't know about that, it's my turn for a shout out for Matt Clegg. He's an awesome guy that runs this group. It's kind of, I like to illustrate it as it's a SWUGing experience, but on a more personal level. So if you want to get more involved in the community and stuff like that, or trying some of the Dassault software, things like that, then check it out. About April timeframe every year, Matt puts out enrollment. Typically good to have a sponsor with it, and you do have to have a CSWP. And I am a certified SolidWorks expert. All right, so some key takeaways from this presentation is going to be automating repetitive tasks. Launch apps with one tap, and then save time and stay focused. This is that image of my setup at the house. This is what I look at every day. And
Nerd.
people are like,
Nerd.
what are you doing?
Nerd.
What are you doing? And so it is a little bit different. I'm not gonna lie. It is a little different, but my desk was a disaster and I was not about to take a picture of it and embarrass myself just because I've been in between so many things here lately. But looking at that, this is the guy that we're wanting to look at, right? That's that deep dive from that last conversation we had a couple years ago. That is this. My employer gave me this as a Christmas gift 5-6 years ago. Anybody know what this thing is? Can you tell from back there? Kindle, yeah, it's an Amazon Fire tablet. Yeah, so it's right there with the Kindle stuff, right? It looks kind of the same. I took it, and as you know, Amazon Fire tablets don't natively run the Google Play Store, right? But you can easily go in the background, turn off, apps from unknown sources and download it and then run the Google Play Store. So I did, and I'll get more into that because the 2 apps that you can use later on for this stuff, you can put on any tablet or any Google Play device or Apple device and use that. And so I was like, yeah, I'll refurbish this. I don't know what else I'll use it for, right? So I've been keeping it on my desk. and using it. And we'll talk some more about that here in a minute. All right, so what is Stream Deck and Touch Portal? Well, Stream Deck, going by what they're saying, they like to be said is it's a customizable control panel or control pad with physical buttons that trigger actions, shortcuts, or macros, ideal for streamers, creative people, or there's creative content guys, right? And productive pros. Now, the next one, being a touch portal, is a very similar thing, and they say it's just a mobile or tablet-based virtual control surface that replicates similar functions with touch controls, but no hardware needed. And that was a big thing for me back when I first started going down this little rabbit hole. That was kind of a big thing for me because I didn't want to spend money on the Stream Deck stuff, and we'll go into that in just probably another slide. But what do they do? So both tools can help you automate those tasks, control apps, streamline your workflows, and definitely boost productivity with one tap. Now, the Stream Deck, these are a lot of the different versions, some of the basic versions that they kind of started off with, anything from like 6 buttons to I think, what is it, like 32 buttons? Is that one over there? They started about $100. I think the prices have kind of went up on them in the last little bit. But what people really like about it is because it's a more tactile button experience, and they actually just came out with one that has the scissor button stuff. So if you like the scissor type action, then it's got that as well. But basically what you can do is you can program these buttons to do whatever you want to do, and it's pretty easy out of the box, almost short code. There is some extra coding in there, but a lot of short code type stuff, macro type stuff that you can do with it. And they call them pages. Well, I think one calls pages and one calls it something else, but we'll just go for pages for now. So if you click, say, a button that's on there that maybe has your email or that message, let's look at the 6th button one here. And you can kind of see there's a little message thing. So maybe you click that, and when you click it, it opens up your Teams messages, right? And then when it opens up your Teams messages, all those buttons now change because they are like little LCD screens. All those buttons will change to be commands that you can use within your Teams messages, and so on and so forth, a lot of this different stuff. Now, where did this stuff come from? Let's go back. We kind of talked a little bit about it in that last slide. This has really been mostly for those creative content makers that are doing like YouTube, and they want those sounds, or they want their YouTube channel to do something like do some kind of award thing if somebody donates money or whatever. I'm sure you guys are aware of that stuff when you're watching YouTube. So that's what they're really using it for, or maybe even switching cameras or switching mics on the fly, different things like that. So it's really been kind of based out of that. And I got to look and I was like, man, that's pretty cool, but I don't want to spend the money on this device myself. So I went down and looked a little bit further, but real quick before I jump into that, this device is a USB device. It has to be plugged in order to work, right? But not wanting to spend money on the app, I found this source, which was the Touch Portal, and that was my first really dive into it. Because Touch Portal was app-based. They have a lot of different versions that you can, well, just really 2 versions, a free version and a paid version. The free version limits you down, and we'll get into the pages and stuff when I talk about that, but it limits you down to only 2 pages. You get a limited grid amount, so you only get a 4x2 grid, so 8 buttons. You can't really customize the background. There's no plugin support plugin. Limited logic on the functions, and then no graphics upgrades, right? I don't know if we'll get into the graphics upgrades or not. But then I got to looking after I trialed it with just the 4x2 buttons with just the 8 buttons. Like, this isn't too bad. I wonder how much it cost. And so looking at the time, it was $12.99. Like, I can spend 13 bucks. How long? Every month, every year? What was it? It was 13 bucks for life. So once you pay the $13, you're good for life. You've always got it. It's a little weird though, because you don't go to the site and pay for it. You actually download the app, and it's one of those things you pay through the app, and it's always linked to your app. So in order to register on your computer when you're programming this thing, having the app and linking it together is what says, hey, I'm a paid for version, because the app will kick back from your device. And then if you get a new device, I'm not sure how Apple works, but on Android, you just go in and you got to, re-kick in your subscription or whatever you do through the store, right? Now that it was $12.99 now. Now it is $13.99, so it's only went up $1, I think, in the last several years. But with that, you get the unlimited pages, you get variable grid sizes up to 110 buttons per page. That's a lot of buttons, right? And then you get stuff for animated GIFs. You can do GIFs on it, GIF support, customizable backgrounds, plugin support, expanded logic functions, and even more graphics upgrades. Now you can kind of see the one on the right is if you just loaded it out with buttons and didn't have any background. The one on the left is a pretty version. I think that's my Zoom panel. Yeah, Zoom. And so you can kind of see I've got a pretty little back panel, and I can click the home to go home, or I can mute myself, turn my camera on and off, all those things just, just by touching the pad. So it makes it pretty convenient, and that's what I like about it. I use it in conjunction with another device I have, which is a macro pad, and of course my 3D Connection space mouse. Love this guy. Stick around to the end. You have a chance to win the Enterprise bundle kit at the end. So that's a week-long thing. One person's going to win that along with a Z-Book after this week. So using this in conjunction with that's nice. It kind of helps me become more efficient and faster, and macro pads, hotkeys, and all those things. So just moving on just a little bit more, and we'll come back to this. I'm going to show you a little bit more of this stuff in detail. This one I like because you can use it USB plug-in, right, straight to your computer, or you can use it over Wi-Fi. So as long as you have your computer on the same Wi-Fi as you do your device, you can find them and they'll link up together through the IP address. If not, you can plug it in. I have some different networks kind of running through my house, one for my wife's work computer, one for my work computer, one for the kids' Xbox and all that stuff, so we're not drowning out the same line. So I didn't choose to do mine Wi-Fi at first. I did go that way. But the plug-in wasn't too bad either because it kept my device charged the whole time too. So now I've got a free device, and $13 later, and I'm ready to rock and roll. And then I start looking back just recently, and Control Panel decided, Touch Portal's taking some business from us. We probably ought to do the same thing. So they have recently came out with their version similar to Stream Deck, and just recently came out with something else that's really cool. And I'm probably going to jump into this somehow. I got to figure out how to do it cost-wise, but it's going to be really cool, and we'll talk about that too. But with the Stream Deck, it is free for the first 6 months if you want to use the Stream Deck version of it. It's $2.99. You can do $2.99 a month after that 6 months, or you can do $25 a year, or if you want to pay for a lifetime of it, it's $50 a year. It's $50 for life, right? And then you get access to this. And so I think I went and did the $50 just so I could try it out and keep going with it because I figured it'd be something I'd dabble with and play with over time. The only things I would say, I really feel like Touch Portal, since they've been in the app version of it a little longer, it's a little more refined. You get to do cooler things like those backgrounds, move your buttons around. Remember the one where I had that zoom in the middle and things were kind of spaced out? It looked real pretty. So Stream Deck doesn't look super pretty. It's kind of just, I'm here to do a function and that's all you're doing kind of thing. But they're getting there. They're going to come up with more. This new thing they just came out with is the virtual Stream Deck, or what they're calling VSD, right? That is so cool. I'm wondering if I have the slide for that. And these are Wi-Fi based. They are not plugged in, so you cannot plug them into your computer. So that's the difference between those. This VSD, you can kind of see in this picture right here what it looks like. I'm going to go to the websites for all these here in a minute too. But the VSD, the little app that shows up. So anybody use mouse gestures? Love them. Wear them out. If you're going to do a certification, you better know them, right? I got some certification creds out there because it's a great thing to do to show that you're advancing and stuff. But the mouse gestures, hotkeys, all that stuff. This is kind of like mouse gestures. And then if you got a space mouse, you can actually even have radial buttons like mouse gestures on that. Each 3D Connection device you have can give radial menus for you for that. This is cool because you can have it, they call it, what's the name? I think I wrote it down here. You can have it dynamic or static. And so if it's static, it's just going to sit on your screen wherever you place it the whole time. And it works like the app on here, except for it's on your desktop. And so you're utilizing it with your mouse functions, just clicking it, or if you have a touch screen, of course, on your computer, you can use it that way. But it's just little menus that are popping up so you can click them just like you would on the tablet or your phone or whatever else you're using. The cool thing about the dynamic one is, though, because if you do dynamic with it, it will pop up where your mouse is, just like mouse gestures do in SOLIDWORKS, right? And so that way you can be in any program. And that's the good thing about these two with the Stream Deck and Touch Portal is they recognize the extension you're in, right? So if you're in, say, SolidWorks application, it'll switch the profile to SolidWorks application for you. If you go to Teams, it's going to do the same thing. So you can see that kind of going between them in both programs. So it works very well. I've got a couple other devices do that. I think a lot of the Logitech devices can do that for you as well. If you're a gamer, you probably know that. So yeah, digging into that stuff and just seeing how it can switch in applications. The VSD I think is going to be really cool. Something I'm probably going to want to get into now. In order to get that, it's really new, and the only way you can get it, I'm just going to go to the website real quick. So this is their website, the virtual stream deck. You can kind of see how this is kind of moving. You can make it any shape, color, size that you want to do. That's going to be your static version. This is kind of a static version here. You can see how that one popped up when he indicated to do so, kind of like the dynamic version. Do it all virtually. You set it up, you pull and plug your stuff in to get it going. And then the ways to unlock it. So you do have to have a Stream Deck device to unlock it. But the caveat to that, and I'm sure they're going to catch on to this at some point, you can have any of these devices. The mouse might be, where did my mouse go? There it is. The mouse might be the way to go for me. I don't know, because I am a big buttons on my mouse kind of guy. So maybe that's where I get my entry, because you can do that, or you can do one of these other devices. Once you have that device, you plug it in your computer, open up the Stream Deck app, and the minute you do, it recognizes that you have that device and then allows that to enable. Right? It doesn't even show up in your menu until you plug the device in, and it says, okay, you got a device, I'll let you use VSD. From what I've heard on YouTube, they never check after that point again. Of course, now if you had to redo your installation, or maybe you had an upgrade, I'm sure it may look for it then. But from what I'm seeing on YouTube about it, it checks for that one time only, and then after that, it doesn't check anymore. It just leaves it active. So thinking about that too, not sure where I want to go with it, but I think it's definitely worth a look at. I think it's going to be pretty cool. Okay, let's minimize that. This is your Stream Deck Mobile. I'll put a link into all these just so you guys can kind of look at them.
Prasad was impressed by the mouse with all the buttons.
Oh yeah, yep, that's a good one. Well, that website's not working right now, so we'll just not go to that website.
Uh-oh, broke.
Yeah, it said domain error or something. All right, I wish that would go away over here. Anyway, let me jump back up here. This is the one I started with here. This is that guy, right? And so just give you an idea, you got multi-action macros you can put in there, unlimited amounts of pages, support for old devices, customizable grids. The cool thing with the touch portal, and Stream Deck doesn't do this either, but let's say you're using, we'll use bananaz for example. Not your bananaz, it's a voice modulator that you can use for streaming and stuff, right? You can use it and actually put volume buttons to actually raise the volume up and down and do a lot of really cool dynamic buttons, not just one button. As where with Touch Portal, it's literally just like little Apple buttons sitting there. You can't do a whole lot. It's in my opinion, it's the difference of how Android was with its widgets and Apple was with its widgets, and how Apple's trying to get the widgets in there now. That's kind of the difference I'm seeing with the buttons between the two. So you can come down, and here's the integrated services, right? So OBS, you got some Windows functionality, which is really cool because you can get it. They got a lot of plugins. People are actually out there developing them, and a lot are free, and there's some that are paid for that you can download and just automatically run with them. Stuff that'll keep your Windows looking at Windows as far as your CPU, your RAM, and all that good stuff. So that's kind of nice. And then you get all these other guys here too, but nowhere in here do I see a button for SolidWorks. But that's what I'm using it for. Right now I use it for the other stuff too, don't get me wrong, but nowhere in here do I see it for SolidWorks. Here's where you get to that pricing I was talking about. These are some other plugins and stuff you can use it for. $13.99. That's it. They've got some extra add-ins you can go for if you want to try those for different icon packs and stuff like that. But if you want to just get into it and have it for life, $13.99 is where it's at. All right. And then we'll see what we got here. Keeps disappearing on me.
Well, it's not allowing me to go on there probably because you're not supposed to see it.
No, I'll just pull it. Oh, I know what I'm doing. I'm clicking. It's all black and they all run together. There we go.
Or it could be the 1,200 miles we've ridden.
Yeah, 1,200 miles driven. So yeah, this is a fairly basic one. You see, it's about $150, and they're just basic buttons, especially with the mechanical one, right? Kind of see what they're doing here. Yeah, they're changing, pulling text in. See how that CPU button's working? I mean, that's just pretty cool stuff. And of course, I got the new scissor key one I was telling you about.
Ooh, mechanical keys.
So this is the UI, and we're getting ready to jump into that UI and look at it a little bit too. But this is the UI for Stream Deck. And just do some pretty cool stuff. But this is what got me driving down the rabbit hole here. All right, so let's jump over into some of this stuff here. Let's start with Stream Deck. So here's Stream Deck. You can see it on my button, and basically what you're seeing in the screen is kind of what you're getting. That's what I'm saying. It's kind of the difference between that Apple and the Android widget kind of stuff, right? Because it's pretty bland, pretty basic, and if you want to do something, you just come in here. You can drag your actions. You do multi actions if you want to bring that in, drag it in. Then you can start dragging your actions in here and creating what you want to do. You can go out and you can create buttons that say, I want it to be SolidWorks, and you hit the button and it's going to launch SolidWorks for you. So that's some other stuff you can do in there. So let's go back from the multi-action. We'll delete that out because we're not going to use it. You can create folders. So maybe you have something that's that you're going to all the time. And you just want to click the folder and put that information in here. You can do that. So maybe you have all your engineering software and you put it all in one folder so that we can launch those applications when you're ready to launch them. All right. You got some soundboard stuff. Again, that kind of goes back to the creative content stuff, some timers and sleeps. Hotkey switches. The hotkey switches are kind of cool. It's basically a toggle. So like say you did a copy and paste, right? You want to do copy and paste. One click's going to be your copy. The next click's going to be your paste. So that's like your hotkey switch. And it's pretty easy. You just go down here and say, what's this hotkey? Well, I'm going to say Control C, and then I'm going to say Control V. I can give it a title and say that's my copy and paste function. And there we go. Now it's going to show up on my pad as a copy and paste function. When I click it, it's going to do the Control C, and then when I click it again, it's going to do Control V, and it'll give you an indication of which mode it's in by the toggle of that switch, right? And this stuff is pretty simple. I mean, there's a little bit of a learning curve, but if you're doing anything with like just real small macros or hotkey type stuff, that's a great way to start it, just plugging in hotkeys and stuff for it, or maybe going and finding your executables. Take you to website. This is your open, so you can come in here and go to open. Let's do this. Let's say we want to browse for the executable we want. We can go to our C. We can go program files, and maybe I'll want it to launch, not that.
How dare you have Autodesk?
Oh, I tried to scroll past it really quick. Let's see. Let's do
Just throw
good.
this thing in the trash now.
Chrome application. Well, we'll find that executable here in a minute. Microsoft has really started burying their executables, it seems like, especially with the new stuff, the Windows 11 and everything. So you got to kind of find them. Sometimes you can, the easiest place sometimes is to find those is under users and public, and then public desktop. And sometimes you can find your stuff in here as well. Let's go to my desktop and see what I got on there. PowerPoints, nope. Well, we'll find an executable here somewhere, I guarantee it. Actually, let's jump in here. Fun fact, SolidWorks Connected does not work with the quick launch. I'm not 100% sure why. I think it's because it's doing some other, like, some DOS stuff in the background, or whatever you call it, command line stuff in the background to try and launch what it's doing with the license check and stuff. I tried to get it to work and figure it out, and it just wasn't playing very nice at all. So I don't have a ton of apps on here. Let's see Adobe. Adobe might have something.
I hit that delete key in that Autodesk folder. There it is again. Jeez.
DaVinci. Let's do DaVinci maybe. I don't know. Anyway, find your executable. All you got to do is find your executable and it'll go in there. And I promise you, when you hit that button, it'll launch the program. I'm not going to take your time and spend an
Right.
hour looking for an executable, but they're in there. I promise. They are in there. This is a fairly new computer. It's something HP's gave us to use for the road show, to kind of get out in front of you guys and let you guys see these really cool computers. So I didn't load a lot of stuff on there. So that's probably why we're having a hard time seeing an executable. All right, let's click on that and we will delete it. All right, so you got open applications, you got close, so you can say, hey, I want it to close on whatever I'm on. You got stuff text, like if you just need the same, maybe you got a username and password for everything, and you don't want to sit there and have to remember that stuff. You can do it with text stuff. I've got one page, I'm going to tell you what, maybe you might see it, I don't know if I'm going to show it. You got one page on there that says passwords. I click it, and wherever I'm at, I hit that, and it knows where it's at. The cool thing about that, and I'm going to get into this, it doesn't work on Stream Deck. I don't think they've got it in here. But on Touch Portal, they've really embedded some cool stuff with the mice. So you can do right clicks, left clicks, middle clicks, all kinds of stuff. And it will read. So because I have my computer set up in such a way when I dock it at home, everything always goes to the same screens. I keep all my apps on the same screens, right? I keep email here, I keep Teams down here, I keep YouTube right here because everybody watches YouTube while they work, right? No. And then SolidWorks in the middle. I've got my PLM on the right, and then my screen over here is just kind of my random Excel stuff that I just kind of throw over there, what I'm really rarely looking at. And of course, you see at the top, I keep my SolidWorks YouTube channel. Shout out for SolidWorks YouTube channel up top, so I can check that stuff out. But because I have everything set just so, and I always put my same applications in the same place, it will actually locate your pixels on your screen for your mouse cursor. So let's say there's a couple, I'll give you an example. Our PLM system, when we first moved into this one new type of it, we were running commands where you had to click in several different areas of the PLM system to maybe launch an EC workflow or something like that, right? Or put it in a folder and do certain things with it. And I'm like, man, there's no hotkeys to do this. I can't really tab, shift tab or nothing like that to get through the different menus. And it's just cumbersome. And I'm having to click and type and click and type. Dude, I trained my mouse to do it for me. I said, okay, you can recognize my pixels. Well, I want you to click here. I want you to type this in every time, then click here and submit, right? I no longer had to do it. I just push the button and it does it. That's going to be on Touch Portal, but that's kind of the similar thing we're going down the road with that text stuff. So you can kind of automate some of that as well. And this volume control stuff, you can get into that a little bit later. Here's that sign in button I was telling you about. That's on the Stream Deck version. You see a lot of different stuff, and you can go through these different profiles. Like for example, here's Excel. This is a full-blown Excel version, right? So I've got what new, grab my reading glasses so I can actually see this stuff. So new, open, save. I mean, you can see everything. Go to my next sheet, previous sheet. Who likes to click the sheets at the bottom? Anybody like going and taking your mouse down there away from your screen? No, I don't. What if you have your mouse where you know you want it and just clicking the next on a little tablet or even my phone? I've got the app on my phone. I can pull my little Z fold up, set it right there and start using it there, right? So you got all that different stuff. I'll show you a few other ones I've got in here made. Let's Google Chrome shortcuts, right? PowerPoint. Sometimes it's nice to have a little PowerPoint shortcut to be able to control things. Here's my SolidWorks one, right? So a lot of this stuff is pretty unique to some of the API driven stuff that we've done. For example, we have something that can either go in and create the basic of a drawing for you. So it's going to pull the drawing up, give you your different views and put it on the sheet for you. We also have an item where we need to change the drawing to update our template. I don't have to go up there and click that button, down, oh, sheet 4 and enter. I click that button, it's done.
I see magnifier on here. Are you officially old to need a magnifier as a hotkey?
Hey, got old man glasses. All right, so, and then I got, AWC, we won't talk about that and throw us under the bus with that. I got SolidWorks there. I got previous and next. You know what that previous and next is for? I do my large assembly prints. I've got tons of prints, right? I don't like going down just like Excel and clicking that forward and next on my print. So now I'm sitting there working on my prints. I said, okay, I'm ready for the next page. It goes to the next page or previous page. So it's just really cool stuff. I need a section. I don't want to go to my heads up display or my heads up toolbar. I want to be able to hit section and just run it, right? Let's see some other stuff we've got in here. App revision, different things with the API there. This is the M-Bomb Creator. It's another legend or another feature that we have on our API bar. So I can just hit that and it creates the bomb for me. Some nice, cool stuff. I'm not going to dig on this too more. There's the teams. Again, they are application specific, so it delineates between the different ones you're in. So now we'll close this one. I'm going to jump into the touch portal. There it is. That's touch portal. I feel like it's just a little more oiled machine as far as the user side of it goes. I like customizable things. I did a presentation yesterday and I asked the audience who uses Apple versus Android because I was trying to gauge the audience to see, do Apple users or Android users probably customize their user interface, their hotkeys, or mouse gestures more than others. And it seems like Android users, which I would have expected, customize their stuff more than Android users. So if you're Android users customize more than Apple users. If you're an Apple user and you don't, please start. You will find so much benefit in customizing your UI in SolidWorks, and this is going to take you down that same rabbit hole too. But it's so cool because you come in here, you can set up your page settings, you can put different things. I've got, the Death Star in the background there. If I jump in and go down to say maybe SolidWorks, I got SolidWorks colors. I can launch SolidWorks from right here. There's my sign-in page I was telling you about. Anybody like Zelda? I'm a Zelda fan. Go back to my main page. And so if I click sign in, it's there, and I can go to my sign in page and see what's going on there as well, because that's going to jump back. The only thing, and Touch Portal is pretty good with this as well, and they ask you, do you want to create a home button every time you create that new page? And I would suggest yes, because otherwise you get yourself locked in a page, and trying to get back to the home page is a little tough sometimes. Having that home button is nice, and you'll notice you'll see it on all my different ones. There's the home button there. That'll take me back home. VLC, if anybody uses VLC player. This is what I'm talking about, the difference between Touch Portal and Stream Deck, the app goes. Look how cool this looks in comparison, right? I think I've got some more. Where's the Windows one? Is it? Here's the Windows one, showing me my CPU, the gigabytes being used, all that. There are toggle buttons for headphones, Bluetooth, all that stuff. So it's just really cool driven stuff there. All right, let's jump into one of these real quick and show you here. So this is where you're programming on the touch portal. You click the button you want to click and it takes you into your actual low code programming stuff, right? And it's got a lot of similar functionalities, but I feel like more functionalities than Stream Deck does right now, especially with the buttons. So you can do a run. Say I want to put a run in that one. I want to do an open file. I'll put the open file. You get your little low code bar coming up here to pick your file. You toggle it on and off. But then you can change your button format. This is what I feel like Stream Deck's probably missing the most, in my opinion, even besides the background feature, is this little button context, because you can do so much with the font, the color, the alignment. And this is how you get people that really get into it, and where you can download some of those different Windows type things and stuff too. You can pull images. You can create your own images for your buttons. If you want to get into that, you got different background settings. You can create your size. How big is that button going to be? And even down to the graphics stuff. This is that graphics upgrade I was talking about. You can get some different cool graphics, and it's just, yeah, kind of like that stuff you can buy extra too. We will delete that one. Yes. Or no. We'll just cancel and come back then. All right, so we'll scroll down. You got navigational type stuff. Here's the mouse input. This is just, in my opinion, the cat's meow. Mouse. So you got your mouse click, mouse move, and mouse drag. That is under the mouse. There's some other stuff in here as well. You got your keyboard. But let's do the mouse click. Now we can say what kind of click are we looking for here? We'll just go default, just a default click. Do we want left mouse button, middle mouse button, right mouse button, or maybe even a left double click, right? Because sometimes we know we got to go to a certain part on the screen, double click it to activate whatever application that is. I'm just going to do a left mouse button click. This is kind of what I was telling you. I'm trying to go somewhere on the screen. You can tell at the duration, 100 is fine. That's about a millisecond. So 1,000 is going to put you at a second. 100 is going to put you at a millisecond. And then you can come down and you can put, if you know where the coordinate system is, where you want it to click, you can type that in. If you don't, you can hit M, use mouse position, and hit M. So I'll go right there, and it puts that coordinate system in for you. So there's no guessing. It's going exactly where you put that mouse at. And so now I don't have to worry about it. I can do that. Okay, well, that's my first feature. Well, what if I wanted to do that? And again, this is another part that I feel like Stream Deck's missing, because stacking codes, other than that multi-action function I showed you at the very beginning of Stream Deck, other than that multi-action of that, it doesn't do the stackable stuff. So that's, I think, is another thing that's missing as well. So then we can come down. You can see you can download this extra content to pull in different plugins and stuff too. Let's go keyboard, write text. So now I'm in here and I want to say IronSWUG rocks, right? And so now wherever I initiate that command, it's going to click there and then it's going to type that in. I've got one software that's a web-based application, right, and a cloud-based application. In order to sign into it, it never defaults the I-bar in that area where I've got to start typing my username in. So what did I do? In my sign-in thing for that one, I just put a little mouse function in before it and said, hey, click here before you put my sign-in information in, right? And then hit enter afterwards. You can put delays in here. So if, say, you know that when you hit the sign in, maybe you need to sign in and you need to do something right off the bat as soon as you sign in, right? But you know that that count's going to take you 5 to 10 seconds. We'll do that count out 5 to 10 seconds and throw that delay in there of, 5,000, 10,000, whatever you got for your counter, right? And so you can change that stuff. So delays work really well as well. You got some navigational type stuff in here that you could look at. You got values, you got logic, so you can do some if, ands, ors, what if statements. Again, this is all really low logic or low code type stuff. So it's pretty user friendly. And not only would I encourage you to get into this just because it's going to make you more faster and more efficient person, especially with anything you're doing, not just SolidWorks, with anything you're doing, but because it'll also take you down a rabbit hole of learning some coding stuff, which can really benefit you, especially in the SolidWorks realm. Running just simple macros, figuring out how to do a macro. For example, does anybody here have some kind of macro that'll create a PDF DXF for you? Those are easy things to do that you can program a little macro, put it on this button and run it. That's one of our biggest savers, I think, at Outtake, right, Brad? We've got, a couple of buttons. We've got one that'll even create the DXF page for us, because we like to create a DXF page as a second page on our document, put a flat pattern of our sheet metal there for the DXF. And so we've got a button that will create that page for us, hide the bin lines or whatever's there, right? And then we can go in. Now, they're two separate functions, mind you, and I'm just giving myself an idea here now. So they're two separate functions, and typically I've got to hit create DXF, right? And then I've got to go back and hit create PDF and DXF. They're two different buttons, but now I can stack those in here. I say create the DXF. If I know the timer of what it's going to take to probably create the average DXF, put that in there, and now I can just tell it to create the PDF and DXF. I can stack those actions. We've already got the buttons. We've already figured out the macros and the API behind it. Now I just got to do is stack it on my pad, right? And just take it a step further. Let's see what we got. Anything else in here we want to really expound upon? I think that's pretty good in here. I don't want to bore you to death with the minutia of coding and stuff. That wasn't my point. My point's really to introduce you to this kind of stuff and show you the possibilities of thinking outside the box, taking products not meant for their use case and using them there and just giving it a shot, right? That's kind of stuff that itches me, I guess, and I like to scratch it. So let's close that. I do not want to save the changes, and we'll close this because I don't think we'll come back. I'll minimize it just in case. So using some of that stuff. Now, you know how much time I got left?
Negatives.
I'm negative. So I'm going to speed through this next section. I threw it in here in case I had more time. I wasn't sure how long this was going to go. Brad and I have been covered up at work lately, so we threw these presentations together really quick. Didn't even get much time to review them. Although I have to say they went pretty good. Anyway. So getting into the next one, this is probably maybe my first step down this whole rabbit hole. Probably about 10 years ago, I picked up a little macro pad. If anybody does gaming stuff, they'll know what this is. It's a Logitech G13. It's used for gaming and stuff. They're pretty expensive now. They're probably about $500. When they were out, they were about $50, but they're obsoleted, so you can't find them anymore. So if you're lucky, you'll find them on eBay. Somebody might be getting rid of one cheap enough that they don't know what they got, but most people who know what they got are selling them for about $500 on eBay now. Because they're great. They're super ergonomic. My hand sits right there. I can type as macro. You can see it's like G1, G2, all the way to like G, I think 30 something, 23 or something like that. So it's got a whole bunch of buttons, even the thumb buttons and the joystick in there. I like to, before the Space Mouse Enterprise, I would take this and I'd take my Space Mouse and wedge it in the corner, and that was my Space Mouse Enterprise, right? I was using my macro pad with my regular Space Mouse in the corner of that, and it was just working great. This I started with just doing some light macro. It's a Logitech programming. So if you got Logitech mice and you're doing stuff with that, it's very low code, similar to the other stuff. But I started with one button. I said, I want this button to do this. I started there. A couple of days after that, I went with a second button. A couple of days after that, went with a third button. I kept building on it and kept building on it, because you're not going to be able to program this thing all in one day and just run with it. I mean, maybe you can. Maybe you paste up a little thing of all your program keys and you start learning that way. But if you start with one or two and you keep expounding upon it, you're going to easily grab that and retain that and keep moving forward. Again, I like this. I use it every day, run with it. I definitely think it's a great one. I think it's going to run dead on me one time. I think this is my third one I've had, but this will be my next one. So if you want to look for a cheaper option, it's about 40 or $50. It's the Razer Taurus. It's basically the same thing that's under Razer. Again, it's another gaming product, but they're both gaming products that I took outside their wheelhouse and put them inside SolidWorks about 10 years, well, the other one 10 years ago, and have not looked back and love it. And it is also program specific too. So it'll read the applications. I typically set SolidWorks as default, and then when I go to something else, it just kind of jumps into it and does that stuff for me. All right, so since I am over time, we'll go ahead and jump into notes. I always like to do this because it lets me put myself in your shoes and maybe you in mine, and kind of notes I know there's a lot of notes I'd take, but what kind of notes would I've probably taken? So devices can make my job a lot easier. Using devices outside the box for productivity can definitely be beneficial, right? So don't think of just what it's designed for. Maybe you use it for something else, right? Macros and logic are my friend. Don't be scared of them. I think I mentioned it yesterday in the Learning from Mistakes presentation. Don't be scared to break something. If you go into SolidWorks and you start clicking buttons, I'm sure we're going to be able to undo whatever you did at some point, some way. Don't be afraid to break SolidWorks. Don't be afraid to get a device and just start using it and break it, right? Or don't break it to where you have to buy another one, but break it to enough to learn it, right?
Crash it.
Yeah, you don't want to go spending $500 every couple of weeks.
Crash it, not
Yeah,
break it.
crash it, don't break it, right? Because we can get it back. We can fix it for you. And just automate your work, right? My wife finds it funny sometimes because she's like, do you actually work? I said, yeah, I hit a button and it does it for me. Right? So why not? And then more mouse gestures. So you can easily add more mouse gestures, not only with your mouse gestures, but with your 3D connection devices, with the radial menus, and now with VSD from Touch Portal. I think even though VSD VSD with Stream Deck, I think even though Stream Deck still lacks a little bit from where Touch Portal is, that VSD is going to be really cool to have that on your screen, another little added device to do stuff across the board. All right, so a call to action. I like to put this out there for people to maybe grab something from and go. Now, this call to action is the same call to action from San Francisco on day one. I'm trying to end this whole thing for me this week to bring it all around the same place, right? And that's going to be explore new features in anything, whatever you're doing, right? Explore new features, unlock your creativity, because by exploring new features and letting your brain wander, your creativity is going to grow too. Make the time, right? Make the time. Eleanor Roosevelt said, do one thing every day that scares you. And Thomas Jefferson said, if you want something you have never had, you must be willing to do something you have never done. And with that, I'll open it up for some questions.
We're bananaz, a co-pilot for mechanical engineers, a tool built to save time, effort, and money without disrupting how you already work. bananaz integrates directly with your existing CAD and PDM tools, like SOLIDWORKS and SOLIDWORKS PDM. We've packed in more features than we can show you in just 3 minutes. But here's a quick demo. Let's say you've made a change, maybe to the model, the drawing, or both. You check it into your PDM system and create a new version. That's when the magic begins. Right after check-in, bananaz automatically compares the new version with the old one. You'll get a notification letting you know your compare is ready. Just one click and you're in. Need to come back to it later? No problem. All your compares live in your personalized dashboard alongside tasks, design files in workflow, and more. Inside the comparison view, you'll find smart insights, overwritten dimensions, missed details, items that don't comply with your standards, even suggestions to improve your design. It's like having a second set of very sharp eyes. Want feedback? Easy. Share the comparison with teammates, leave comments, request changes, and track every note. It's built for collaboration, and yes, there's a full audit trail. Also see every change highlighted and categorized. What was added, deleted, or modified. Small stuff like view shifts, form, fit, function edits. We don't clutter your view with those. And what if a change was unannotated? No problem. Our 2D overlay shows added lines in green, removed ones in red, right on the drawing itself. Simple, visual, and easy to understand. Ever struggled to track BOM changes after renumbering? Not anymore. We align text to updated numbers, making BOM comparisons clear and easy to follow. And for 3D models, just hit Compare. Get a side-by-side view with all volume changes clearly marked. You can comment and annotate right on the model, and yes, your notes stay in place even when you move the model around. While reviewing, you can instantly see who approved what and add your own approval in one click. Want to share? Export the changes as red line drawings for both versions. You'll also get a detailed report that clearly shows what changed. Perfect for handing off to a colleague or supplier without endless explanations. And here's a feature that surprises a lot of people. bananaz can even write directly into your CAD software, automatically placing revision symbols on drawings or generating change descriptions ready to copy and paste. Because nobody wants to send a drawing back for a missing triangle, and nobody wants to fix it either. And that's just a sneak peek of what bananaz can do.
All right, so we'll get rocking and rolling here. Before we get going too far, I'd like to thank our sponsors again. They're the ones that make this happen. Because, you know, we're just two knuckleheads that like to ride motorcycles and talk about computer nerding and technology and stuff. So I want to thank everybody who came out. Thank the sponsors, HP for donating our Z2 minis back there to test and do our model challenges on. They actually provided 5 total for us to set up and stuff. The 2 HP laptops that we have here for us to use for the event. bananaz for stepping up, not only providing a video, but coming out and you know, hanging out with us for today. All of our VARs, Trimec, Hawk Ridge, Go Engineer, they're all fantastic with support for not only user groups, big user groups like what we do, but also your individual user groups. So if you're in need of presenters and whatnot, always reach out to them.
Yeah, if all of our sponsors are top-notch companies. None of them are gonna take you awry. They're all gonna shoot you straight. If you're looking for a powerhouse PC, these HPs are like none other. Those tractors back, the tractor models back there are full-blown tractor models with 2 diesel engines in them with all the parts in them. The trailers are there, full-blown motorcycle models, and I'm not talking about just lightweight or LDR. They're full-blown on there, and they open in 2 minutes and 20 seconds.
Yeah. Boom.
Huge model.
Rocket ships. So speaking of that, we're going to go ahead and get into some PC hot rodding, or modifying or setting up your computers for SolidWorks, and just general performance tuning and whatnot. So a little bit about myself. My name is Brad Meador. That's my government name. Everybody calls me Tank. I'm a husband and a dad, a project designer at Altec Industries. I am the Roanoke, Virginia SolidWorks user group leader, which is also called the Star City SWUG. I'm also a committee lead for the Mid-Atlantic States for the SWUG-in. I'm also a SolidWorks champion, a certified SolidWorks expert, and because sleep is for the weak, I have 2 other careers that I do at the same time. I'm a live event producer for the local state of Virginia, and I'm also a Virginia certified pyrotechnician. So when I get back home, I will be doing fireworks for the 4th of July celebrations and whatnot for all a bunch of cities and municipalities and private events and stuff. So I live in 2 worlds, and it's really fun when they intertwine, especially when I get to do SolidWorks for entertainment. So, but first, we're gonna do a survey, show of hands. Put them in the chat too. Are you IT? CAD user? Okay. CAD admin? Any CAD admins? Used to be? Okay. Desktop machine or mobile laptop? Desktop. Laptop? Mobile? Okay. All right. Do you buy your own? Raise your hand if you buy your own. Oh, just PCs that you use for work or use for your, CAD. Okay. Okay. Or do your company buy them? Okay. All right. Do you have problems with crashing? Everybody should raise their hands because everybody crashes SolidWorks. Even the most experienced users crash SolidWorks. So, no matter what, you can do something about it. Now, there will be some caveats on some settings and things that you can influence with, help from IT. But it really depends. How strict are y'all's IT departments? You're allowed to play around with your computer settings a little bit, or they lock everything down? Lock down? Okay. Interesting. Okay. A little bit. I see some head nods, some shakes, kind of, Okay. Well, all these recordings will be out after this event. We'll break them up. You can send this recording to your IT department and be like, these are the settings we need you to, these are the computer specs you need. Here's some things that you can think about when you roll out your, your images, things that you would like to work with your IT department. Because I know as a CAD user, and I've done some CAD admin stuff in the past, having something concrete that'll help my users or my coworkers really does help me pick those settings, because a lot of times your standard IT department doesn't really know or care about what SolidWorks needs or what SolidWorks wants. They just care about, well, here's the specs that you give me. Here's the cheapest one for the specs. So we're kind of go into things you should invest your money in, things you shouldn't invest your money in, and go from there. So we'll start with buying the right parts. You can build your own PCs. You can buy them direct from a supplier like HP or Dell. But we're going to kind of go into buying the right parts. But first, what kind of work are you doing? Large assemblies. Big parts, thousands of components. Raise your hand if you're doing thousands of components, big models. Yeah. Small, intricate, single parts. Okay, intricate. Does your feature tree have like 300 or 400 features in it? Okay. Okay. Sheet metal work. Okay, surfacing. Okay. Oh, I'm terrible at surfacing too. That was the hardest exam for everything to get my CSWE, was the surfacing one. I was awful. Took me 3 times to pass it. So these are the kind of things you need to think about, and you need to talk with your IT department, specifically going over, what your standard CAD user is going to be getting, because you don't necessarily want to buy a super massive FEA rendering or a rendering machine if somebody's going to be doing in single level or single parts or small assemblies. But then again, you don't want to buy somebody a 16 gig, Chromebook that's going to be doing large assembly things. I wouldn't say Chromebook, but something small. So, biggest thing, SOLIDWORKS needs CPU speed. So the faster you can get your CPU, the more efficient the software will be. So when you go and you start getting your IT specs up for the next upgrade of parts, start looking at clock speed. The faster ones will work better. SOLIDWORKS is a single-threaded operation with some few caveats, I think, in FEA and whatnot. But CPU speed is king. So up here, we kind of have some different levels of CPU needs. We start like an entry-level designer or somebody who's a maker, somebody who works small parts, less complicated things. And I've kind of picked some CPUs here that are good recommendations for them. If you want to come up here and take photos of the screen, you can. Your i7, that one's a 5.4 gigahertz turbo card. That'll do well for a standard SOLIDWORKS user or an entry-level maker's user. Fairly inexpensive card. You go up to the premium one, you need more cores, a little bit more speed, more threads, because you're going to be utilizing a lot more of the single threads inside of this. So you're going to need something like the Xeon with 20 cores, 40 threads, and this one's a 4.8 gigahertz one. That's for the premium. If you're using premium SOLIDWORKS and you're doing a lot of heavy duty hitting, if you're doing an ultimate style, which is you're doing FEA, you're doing large models, you're doing complicated surfacing, things that are very swoopy, lots of calculations, then you're going to want to go with something like a AMD Threadripper Pro. That one's got this one's got 16 cores in it, but this one's 5.3 gigahertz speed. A little caveat: these are all towers that I'm talking about. If you get into mobiles, you can get similar speeds inside of mobiles. SOLIDWORKS does have minimum system requirements. I linked our Go Engineer site for that. This is where I got a lot of the information from. I don't get a chance to dig into the CAD admin stuff much or keep up with the technology on it, so I'm constantly trying to refresh myself on what the requirements are needed. So here's a little graph that was provided by Go Engineer. On the left vertical bar is your clock speed, and then the time to complete in seconds for static simulation, and kind of give you an idea of how clock speed affects your calculation. So if you start getting into more advanced modeling, advanced simulation, some renderings and things, make sure you start looking at processor speed themselves. Also, feel free to stop me if you need to take photos of things, or if you want to ask questions. I like audience participation, and if I start to suck or you guys get sleepy, throw a tomato at me, or a slice of pizza.
We got a tomato. I got.
Sorry, I just like to have a little fun. Second is RAM. There is a caveat though. You don't need massive amounts of RAM for SOLIDWORKS to function. 32 gigs up to 128. It's about the range you need. These machines that we have currently have 128 gigs of RAM in them. A standard or a maker's entry level person will need 32 gigs at minimum. The more advanced users will take 64 because you're going to use more of it. And then if you're doing FEA and things, get you to the 128. But the reasoning behind it is SolidWorks actually only uses about 32 gigs. Fully, I say fully chooched out. If it's doing everything, large assemblies, all that stuff, you're really only going to grab about 32 gigs. It all kind of evens itself out. Things you got to think about, we'll talk about a little bit later on how to work around that. Also, GPU. This is where your money goes if you're doing graphics. Because, fun fact, computers cannot display curved lines. In general, they cannot display a curved line. They have to break it into little bitty things. They tessellate them. So this is where your display comes from. NVIDIA RTX cards are always great. The new 88 generation ones are really, really fast, really powerful. I have an RTX 6080 at home that I use for rendering, and it is really spendy, but it is a rocket ship. So for an entry level or standard level one, you can kind of stick around with RTX 4500 or an 88 1000, and you'd be good. The ultimate one at the bottom, the FEA, really high rendering. It's a really expensive card. You're looking at $6,000 to $7,000 for a graphics card, and yeah, you could buy 4 of that top one. Yeah, but if you're doing a lot of high-end renderings or you're doing a lot of FEA calculation, you got to run the big boy cards. Another caveat: gaming cards are not appropriate for CAD work. Don't buy a gaming card.
Not like the gaming mice and the gaming.
Yes.
mice.
Gaming cards are cheaper. Gaming GPUs are cheaper, but they function very differently. I heard somebody at NVIDIA tried to tell me the differences in the math behind how each one of them function, and this glazed look over my face because I couldn't understand the differences. I just know that gaming GPU bad, enterprise GPU good. Yeah. Yeah. They do function. They do function, but the drivers are very different, and the way they calculate the shape, the way they calculate the faces are very different. So, just a little discussion on that. So this, what we have currently in these machines, on all the ones that we have on this tour, is this new, it's called an APU. It's a combo CPU, GPU. Built into both these laptops, into those Z2 minis over there. 2,500 cores, and it shares between GPU and CPU back and forth. In fact, this machine itself, will jump out of it real quick so I can show it here. This one currently is using 32 gigs on the graphics. And this one's currently sitting at a 3 gigahertz without the boost cut on. Yeah, I'm not really, where'd it go? Oh, dang it. I know it did. I wanted to duplicate. Break. There we go. PowerPoint's not playing nice with me today. We've started investigating the need for this because, you know, we're working on larger models on desktops because we are on mobiles, and desktops because we want to keep form factor down, keep heat down. And this seems to function pretty well. I've got a model open here in a second. I'm going to show of a full truck, and I've yet to make this thing get hot enough to where the fans need to be kicked on high mode yet. Storage space, 1 terabyte is like a minimum that I recommend, but never let it get more than 50% full. I don't know the reasoning behind that. I assume it's because it uses some of the hardware space to do some read-write functions, especially when you're doing FEA. Yeah, well, this actually came direct from Go Engineer, so maybe you would know. It's okay. I just put you on the hot spot. It's okay. But most PCs now are coming with a terabyte or more. So unless you're running on an old machine, you should be fairly good. So now we're going to jump into some Windows settings, things that you probably can get a little bit more horsepower in under IT. One of the biggest things I've noticed is background processing for things that you would like that are just piddly little things on your PC. And I actually have mine pulled up in here, but you can adjust all these little things like animating windows up and down when you collapse or when you select on things or you want to expand a window. The animation actually takes GPU time.
But it's so pretty.
Yeah, are you trying to work? Or are you trying to have something pretty? Taskbar animations. The peak, you know, you hover over something in the taskbar and it shows up, kind of peaks at what you're down there. That takes GPU. Fading and sliding menus in and out, tool tips in and out. The shadows under the mouse pointer. Who really cares if there's a shadow under the mouse pointer? I don't. I can't see it. My mouse is tiny.
Prasad's got a question.
Yes.
I think the answer is going to be yes, but he's saying, so coming from you, he's asking you if, will having a lower SSD size affect the speed of SolidWorks even if you even if the SSD has more than 50% empty space?
I'm
So
I'm not a hardware expert, but I would assume
500 gigs and you're running, less than half of that on that.
you should be fine. Yeah, you should be fine. Like sliding open windows, smoothing edges of screen fonts. The only thing I do like to leave on is like the drop shadows under the icons, simply because I'm colorblind and I like to have that drop shadow under the icon so I can see better. I'll say color, red, green, color deficient, but we'll kind of show you here. It's really easy. You just type in performance on your machine, especially on these new Windows things. On Windows 11, pull up your control panel. This one currently has a bunch of things cut on. I can cut them all on or on off, all off. If you say for best performance, it kills everything. Oh, dang it. What? No, I didn't. It just killed the signal. Hold on. Let's unplug that and plug it back in. Interesting. Let's see. Interesting. There it goes. Okay. Well, apparently me digging into this thing really broke it. Sorry, y'all.
Show your performance there.
Apparently didn't want to see the performance.
The performance is 0. He doesn't do anything.
I don't do any work. That's right. I don't do any work. So you can have, obviously you can let Windows pick. You can pick best appearance or pick best performance, cuts all of them off. I like some of the things cut on, show thumbnails instead of icons, that kind of thing. And then the translucent selection thing, strictly so I can make sure I see everything I'm selecting. Again, that's the color blindness of colorblind, color deficient things. And then just hit apply. It sets all that stuff for you. And should be things that your IT should allow you to do. If they've locked it down that far, then you might want to reach out to them and kind of showcase some. This is why we're reaching out. Another one is forcing the PC to use the graphic card you want. Sometimes you have to go do it in the BIOS, but most of the time you go into graphics and you can tell it that on this software, I want to use the high performance GPU. Otherwise, Windows will, in an attempt to save power or an attempt to save energy, will auto select back and forth between the integrated one and then the external one that's been applied. So force it to use the good graphics card. Make sure you have that cut on. That should be written into your image. So when you get your IT department in, make sure that they have that. Again, at the bottom, caveat, your experience may be different because of IT policy. We want to make sure that we comply with our IT policy, but it doesn't mean you can't affect some positive change in your IT policy by showing some things like this. Let's play a little dangerous game. I've got SolidWorks open and some other things. I'm not going to jump fully back into the PowerPoint because we've all seen all these things like PowerPoint goes. But be mindful of other software running in the background. I know for a long time, we had a whitelisting program that our IT picked. That whitelisting program was nerfing our performance because it was scanning too many things back and forth. It ended up causing us a problem. Our engineering systems team actually had to have a sit down with IT and like, you got to do some better things here.
Yeah, so we went from bit 9 to
Something Sentinel 1.
Sentinel.
Yeah, bit 9 was nerfing our performance. But be mindful of what software you've got going on. Let's play a dangerous game and pull up the task manager and see how much performance my computer is being used right now. Currently, I've got SOLIDWORKS open. That's kind of expected to have a lot of data there. I've got Zoom open. It's streaming data. But kind of be mindful of, like, there's 30% of my data, my memory being used on this machine right now. And yeah, while there's a big amount of it being used by SOLIDWORKS, there's a lot of extra things in here. Look at how much Edge is using, and I have no tabs open. Edge is not even open on my machine, and Microsoft Edge is still drawing memory. I will open
Chrome's horrible.
Chrome, Edge, any of these web
They're all
browsers.
using Chromium, so.
We'll pull it back up. Look, with 5 tabs, we've got 10% of SOLIDWORKS usage with a model open. Be mindful of what you've got going open, because if you have a smaller set of RAM, let's say if you have 32 gigs and SOLIDWORKS is attempting to use all 32, you could crash your machine. That's why internally to our company, we're reaching out to our IT department and saying, hey, we need to go to 64 because Teams, Outlook, Chrome, Edge, these things that we need to function, 64 would be about the average. You're not dumping stupid amounts of money into the RAM, but you got enough to where Windows has enough to run Windows, and then Outlook has enough to run all its Outlook things. And then most of our PLMs now are browser-based. In a browser, it takes up a lot of memory. You got to have enough to run it. So just be mindful of what you're doing.
So Deepak says he's actually went and disabled many of his apps, which seem to be irrelevant. They keep eating and resources in background.
Yes, Deepak, put some in the chat of the ones you've gotten rid of, and we'll see if they're on this machine and if we can get rid of them. But like, there's hundreds of background apps running right now, and I'm using 31% of my memory just sitting here idling with SOLIDWORKS open. I'm not even really trying to do anything. If I start rotating the thing around, it might actually start using more memory up. Actually, it just cut the fan on. See if I can dock it over here to the side to showcase what we're doing here. Start getting it around and making this thing heat up. But just be mindful of what you got open. Be mindful of at least have that discussion with your IT department, especially if you have some more open discussions with them about, this is what we're doing, this is what we're seeing. Yes, we understand we have to have this policy to abide by, but maybe we can cut down some of this stuff because it's causing us problems. One of them is be mindful of excess cache files, cookies. I know this is a telling on yourself, but how does anybody restart their computer at the end of the day, every day? End of the week? We got one. End of when it crashes.
I try not to.
Okay.
But I'm busy, Brad. I'm busy.
Okay. Try to do it at least every 7 days, because you start building up cache files and excess data and cookies and this things, that will fill up temporary memory, and you don't need those kind of things. One of the softwares that I like to use is Malwarebytes. It's a free software you can download. I run it on all my home machines. It clears out things like temporary downloaded install files. Your download folder, if you want to clear that download folder, it does all the cache, all the cookies, any of the excess data you don't need, and it clears it out. And I've pulled on some machines, like I've had my parents bring in their machine and go, it's slow, fix it. And then you can clear 50 gigabytes of data of just junk files because they don't think to do that.
A lot of people don't realize SOLIDWORKS itself retains a ton of cache until you restart.
Yes. I have users that come to me and say, my computer's acting funny. And I'm like, okay, what's it doing? And they're like, it's jerky and acting funny. So when's the last time you restarted? And they're like, oh, 2 or 3 days ago. And I could prove them wrong. With SolidWorks RX, this is the first step to proving somebody wrong, because you can go in here and say, let's see, system maintenance. It should be under diagnostics. Well, this will tell you when the last reboot was. Last reboot was 1 day ago, or 10 hours actually. I've seen this up to 32 days, 35 days sometimes, and they're like, I restarted it yesterday. I'm like, did you? Or did you just put it to sleep? So be mindful about cookies and cache. Clean those things out. Restart your machine at minimum once every 7 days. Maybe even somebody in the chat last week or a couple days ago said that their IT department has made them forced the computer force restart every 7 days. I'm like, cool. Thanks for all the work that you just got rid of, because sometimes I don't save it, or if I did save it, I might have forgotten. I could see that. Now that we got kind of the PC stuff, we'll go and kind of go into SolidWorks settings. Be mindful of your add-ins that you have, because some add-ins, especially aftermarket ones, sometimes can slow your machine down. They've gotten far better with the way the with the way the software works, but I've seen add-ins nerf performance as well. So just be mindful if you've got some things cut on. Like I default a lot of these things off: CircuitWorks, FeatureWorks, the routing, toolbox. I turn those off just so I don't need to load the files, because I don't use them. I don't need them on my day-to-day. I do a lot of sheet metal work, heavy sheet steel, so I don't need them.
Deepak said the main ones he gets rid of is the Microsoft Edge update service, Xbox apps, Windows theme, and some unwanted Dell apps.
So Deepak has been sorted into the Dell house.
He's not liking it though, he's saying.
Okay. But yeah, just be mindful of the add-ins you have. If you have custom ones that you've made, or and you see some problems, that your API could be causing that. Some big ones that I've started looking into and we've been diving into in 2023, I believe it came out. Automated optimized resolve. It'll auto lightweight parts for you as you're opening them. Investigate that for your business. If you start doing a lot of heavy, large assemblies or things that are complicated, auto lightweighting will help SolidWorks determine, okay, I don't need to see all these little things in full detail. You can go into those settings as well. Now those are deployable in your SolidWorks image when you go to run it. Enhanced graphics, please turn them on. I've seen some big gains in enhanced graphics, and then the edges and stuff. I haven't really dug into turning those on and off and seeing the difference, but enhanced graphics really does help with performance. And then if you do large assemblies, or if you're working on things that are constantly slowing your machine down, change your large assembly settings to where it'll automatically open your parts in large assembly mode. We start ours at 500, and then we go into LDR at 5,000. You can change that number to your liking. If you have a CAD admin, or if you know somebody that's having problems, cut that number in half to 250 or 500. And see if that helps with opening performance and operating performance, so you're not having to fully resolve all those parts every time you open them. And then finally, the biggest thing I harp on for everybody is, in your part templates, turn your image quality down. Anything below half or closer to the left, or your left, get it close to that as you can stand. I have users that will slide them all the way to the right, or do you download McMaster-Carr parts, McMaster-Carr files? They are set at 100% when you download them. I swear their designers get paid by the feature, because you can download a bolt and it has everything in it, including a head stamping. You don't need to see that. You can turn that image quality down. At Altec, we've actually created a macro that'll cut the image quality down to 10% automatically. We have a button we just push to do it, because when you're running a full truck, like this one here, if you have anything in this model anywhere near 75% or higher, it'll just slow it down and crash. We have all the parts in there minus the hardware. And this is a sales model for a customer to see. And it functions really well, even with it being fully defined with parts hidden and whatnot. So, you know, for the sake of time, I don't want to get into too much detail and too nerdy, but you know, go into your SOLIDWORKS settings, go into your document properties, and just turn that image quality down. The little circle that's up there will tell you how much pain you can handle. If you want to go all the way down to the lowest, you know, everything will be a hexagon. Let's do that and see what happens. Might actually break the machine. I don't know. I've never tried it on a full sales model. Well, maybe I broke it. I don't know. Oh, it flashed.
That was just a wink.
But yeah, just you don't have to go that extreme. But just start bumping your models down in image quality so that your computer's not having to break that face up into as many small triangles. SOLIDWORKS takes a round or a surface and breaks it into triangles themselves. They're called graphics triangles, and makes little bitty faces out of them. And the finer or the higher the resolution is, the finer the graphics triangles will be. Well, it didn't do much with that. Interesting. Let's check that again. Yeah, it didn't change much. I'm guessing because it's a big one. You can actually check your graphics triangles inside of SOLIDWORKS by under the Evaluate tab. Go to Performance and then see what you're looking at. As far as graphics triangles, I found a downloaded spring from a MasterCard that had over 1 million, and we had 10 of them in a file. And I'm like, no wonder this thing's crashing. Let's be very careful when you start playing around with parts. So, yeah, we got. Well, I want to make sure we have. Well, no, I want to make sure that we have time for model mania. So, so my call to action is tinker with your settings a little bit. Discuss it with your IT department. Don't go back to them and say, "Hey, I need you to do this." Just like, "Hey, this is something that we might be able to benefit from as an average user. Can we maybe change some of these things? Can we deploy some settings and try it and see? You know, maybe become a testing individual." I actually am one of the beta testers for Altec. So when we go to upgrade software, we go to upgrade hardware, you know, they say, hey, run with it and see if you can find problems. So does our API break? Does our custom add-ins break? That kind of thing. And then share the results with your team. Again, these will be, these presentations will be broken out and put on our YouTube channel. So you can take them and send them later and go from there with your teams and with, you know, your IT department. And you feel free to ask questions now or whenever.